Focus on your vision. You're on a secret mission. Ignore what the masses say. Well, it's up to me, what I really want to be. And I'm still searching for the day. We got to fight. We got to feel. We got to know what is real if we're going to win this race. That's Rise Up by Pennywise. What's up? I'm back from a little hiatus. My name is Brandon E. Brooks. This is IOU, Industry Outlaws United, IOU for short. I'm happy to be back from, hey, Tim, my subsoil brother. Thanks for tuning in. I was on a hiatus for the last couple of weeks. I was on a film set that was just telling Joe behind the scenes. It was a blessing. A brand new Mark Webber film that just wrapped yesterday called Figments of Freedom. It's going to be just another amazing effort from him that hopefully, knock on wood, is another Sundance calling for him. It just was a great experience, a great cast, a great crew of people. We were in the trenches in upstate New York with a lot of just dope artists and just people just making art. So yeah, I'm proud to have just done that with those guys. Joe Ridgely, our fearless leader here on the IE network, is still under the weather, so he'll be holding things down behind the scenes for me tonight. I appreciate you for doing that, Joe. And we have just a banger of a show tonight with one of the coolest cats in Hollywood, and just it's out there. His resume is extensive. So without further ado, I just want to jump into this because he's waiting in the green room. And so, Mr. Ridgely, can you hit us with the tribute video for tonight's guests? Pretty dope. All right, welcome to IOU, actor, filmmaker, VO artist, musician, just all around dope cat, Gary Anthony Sturgis.
Hey, what it do? What it do?
What is due, man? Thank you for being here on your Friday night. I appreciate you, Gary.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome. So just a little backstory. I was blessed to work about a year and a half ago on a movie called False Pretenses with Gary. It's upcoming. I actually just got the invite for a screening this past week. So I'm looking forward to that coming up. But yeah, and I got the chance to talk to Gary a little bit about his career, and he shared some really cool stories. And again, I got to know him a little bit behind the scenes. So all of you tonight on the show are going to get to know Gary a little bit. So JW, my brother from another podcast, thanks for watching, buddy. He says hello to both of us tonight. JW has another show on Wednesday night, Generation Movies. This dope, talking about the history of different cinema. So yeah. Awesome. So Gary. So I always start with my guests. Can you tell our audience like where you're from, born and raised, and tell us if you, as a young buck, like if people knew that you were a born performer and you would end up kind of where you ended up right now as a young lad.
Okay, well, let me start by saying I'm Gary Anthony Sturgis. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, 9th Ward boy. Actually, a 1712 Albert Street. Somebody that owned the house now, they painted it purple and gold. They own some Mardi Gras stuff. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I've always, ever since I was very young, I knew that I wanted to do something in entertainment. I just didn't know how to get into it or how it worked. And where I came from, you had a lot of jazz musicians at the time, back in the 60s and so I was born in the 60s. So in the 70s, 80s, when I was coming up, there wasn't the Lil Waynes yet. There wasn't the Cash Money records. And, that stuff didn't happen yet. So the only thing that was happening in New Orleans back then was jazz music. And I wasn't a jazz musician. So yeah, it kind of was a little bit of a problem. But I wanted to play football. To be honest with you guys, for those who know me, I always wanted to be a wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. But my mama, rest her, God rest her. So she said to me, we don't have no insurance and you too skinny. So yeah, it's a true story. She really said that. And then they took me to Warlines and got me an instrument. Me and my brother, they took us to, got us into music. And my brother picked the clarinet. And my dad said, pick any instrument you want. So I'm like any dude. I'm looking at the trumpet and the trombone and all the big hard instruments. And my dad hands me this flute. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? He said, so he knew I was a smart kid. So he said, well, that's really the hardest, most challenging instrument out there. So by saying that, he kind of got me to try it. Yeah. And I ended up becoming very good at it, even though for a long time I got told that's a girl instrument. I got very good at it. And I played the piccolo flute, was the section leader of my junior high and my high school, and became drum major. And then music sort of led me off into acting, so by performing in shows and doing, field performances and marching in parades. I was always in front of people. So I was like, well, one day I'm just going to give this acting thing a shot. And I did with a play, and, the rest was history. I never stopped doing it.
Okay. So was that play Raisin in the Sun? Was that one of those? Okay. I read that.
That was actually the play. I was supposed to just be there to sort of sit in. My English teacher at the time, I was in high school, Patricia Hill, God bless you. I wrote an essay about what I wanted to do when I got out of school. And she was pretty shocked by it. It was probably the first time I ever vocalized, what I wanted to do was on an essay. Because I was sort of presented with the question of what do you want to do when you get out of school? So I had to think about it. And I said, well, here's what I want to do. And in that, I talked about how I wanted to move to New York and act and take the world by storm. And she was a local actress. So she invited me to a table read for Raisin in the Sun. Oh, and I happened to be sitting there, and the guy who was supposed to play Asa guy didn't show up. So they asked me if I'd read in, no pressure, just fill in the hole. I read in, and that night they gave me the part, and I've been acting ever since.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. So I read also that, again, this isn't acting related, but you were in a fraternity in school?
Yeah,
or
Omega Psi Phi. Yeah, I'm a Q dog. I pledged Fall 85 Theater Mu Chapter, University of New Orleans. Roof, all the Qs out there, all the Greeks out there in general. I respect anybody that pledged any fraternity. It's not the easiest thing to do, so I respect each and every organization. But I'm a Q. For those out there for those that know what the Qs are. With them gold boots and shit. Yeah, I actually got a couple of them.
Nice. I see you got a nice array of like championship belts and different.
Oh yeah, I collect stuff, man. I'm a collector. I got a couple of my movie posters back there. Yeah. I got a wall full of wrestling belts. I got boxing title belts. I got all kind of foolishness up here, man. It's a collection room of just stuff. And I got like Star Wars hilts for the lightsabers and stuff. And they were like custom made out of Australia. So I just collect stuff. I got football helmets in here. I got all kind of I got to organize it, but I got some crap in here.
And this is from people that you've met over time and just different.
It's just stuff that I liked. There's a time when my little brother was growing up, I used to take him to a lot of wrestling matches. So I got into that. So I would buy the belts and we go to the wrestling matches with the belts and stuff. So, taking pictures and stuff. So it was crazy. And then some things just came out of things I was doing. I would play boxing games and stuff, like the fighting games. So me and my brother would be like, oh, wish we had some belts to pass around. So I went and bought some title belts. I found a guy who actually makes title belts and paid him like $800 a belt to get. I mean, you would think I fought in a fight to get these things. I actually take them. I go to Saints games and shit, and I wear them. And people be thinking, oh, this Floyd Mayweather. I'm like, I guess all black people look alike. And just because a brother got a belt don't mean he's Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? But fans don't know. They see the belt, they figure that's what you do.
Oh yeah, so, yeah. They don't know if you weren't. They don't know if you weren't a quarterback for the Saints.
So I just say, I did that. You know what I'm saying? They don't know. I remember I walked out of. I was with Ray Lewis at a Baltimore Ravens game. And we were, I got to be where the family and friends hang out, which is different. I'm not used to all that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I come out the back with the players. And all the fans are lined up on both sides like a parade, and they just want to take pictures with all the players. And I'm walking, they keep thinking I'm Ray Rice. I'm thinking, now I know Ray Rice, but I'm taller than Ray Rice, you know what I'm saying? I'm older than Ray Rice, but they kept saying Ray, and I'm thinking, just because I came out the back, y'all just assume when the helmet come off, we just all look alike. No, I wasn't Ray Rice, though. For the person who said that, I appreciate it. But no, Ray was there at the time. He still played at the time, and he was there.
So what growing up, what were some of your influences, like acting wise, and some films that you loved growing up?
For me, it was we didn't get to see a lot of ourselves as colored people in the 70s, and when we did, it was always some downtrodden shit like Sounder. You know what I'm saying? It was like, let's do some right after post-slavery stuff about a dog. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was the stuff I got to see. I think I was inspired by simple shows like Good Times and the Jeffersons. And I got to see black people on TV. I think that's where it really got to me, because I remember distinctively saying to myself one day, I walked in my mom's room and we're watching Good Times. And I'm thinking, wow. Those people get to be in that little box. I want to be in that box. She said to me, they pay for that. Now, I was blown away to hear that. I just thought it was some cool stuff that you did for fun. Yeah. I would have done it for free. You know what I'm saying? But she told me they pay for that. I'm like, wait, that's a job? Like I can make a career of that. And that's kind of how I got into it, by seeing other young black people doing it and saying, I like to be a part of that movement. I want to be a part of the imaging of our people to the world. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah, that was very much influenced me, like watching Good Times and What's Happening, and just a lot of those shows, just where it was people that looked like the people that were around me. Like, they were around me.
And it reminded me of people that I was around. So even though some of these characters, it's comedy, so they over-exaggerate, make the characters bigger, there was little elements of these characters that were familiar. Yeah. And I was tickled by the fact that white America was open to allowing, other races to sort of tell their stories and sort of show a glimpse of what's going on in their community. So, but if you look, it's kind of funny. I laugh now because now, 2022, when they play these shows and reruns all the time. And when you hear the intro songs now versus when you hear the songs that's on the new shows, all the black shows back then had the same theme, We downtrodden. We looking for hookups. You know what I'm saying? Good time. If you listen to the lyrics of Good Time, there's nothing good about this shit. I mean, temporarily. What's that other one? They scratching and surviving. I mean, there's nothing good about these lyrics. But it ends up by saying, "Ain't we lucky we got them good times?" True. I mean, Good Times actually taught me that if you're poor and you find a bag of money, you're supposed to do the right thing and give it to some white people. What? You know what I'm saying? I was in the hood and I was like, they see y'all lost me on that episode, Good Times. Y'all lost me on that episode. I grew up poor. See, obviously the people who wrote this wrote what poor looks like from their window. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When you grow up poor, no.
That was Norman Lear's version.
Yeah. You see, Norman Lear never grew up poor. You know what I'm saying? If he actually grew up poor, he'd be like, I think this is not a moral issue, because technically that bag of money has no name. It's not like somebody's credit card or, we want to show that black people are morally sound. Shit, I watch white shows. Y'all get away with taking shit all the time. Let us take some shit. You know what I'm saying? Let us win. We want to win. No. I'm gonna give up this bag of money and we're gonna stay here in the projects with JJ and this onesie. That's what we gonna do. That's what we gonna do. We'll get hollered at by James because he lost his job again. That's what we gonna do.
Exactly. In Florida. Oh my. Oh.
No, it's just like damn. That was the most Emmy-winning performance I ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? She brought
rest in peace, Esther Roll.
Yeah, yes, indeed. She brought it home, man. That's the kind of stuff that inspired me to want to get into this business. It was, watching people like myself emote power like that. Yeah. Emote emotions. I mean, we all remember, Janet Jackson when she played Penny and her mama burned her with that iron.
Oh yeah.
That's memorable stuff. You know what I'm saying? These kind of things would resonate with us back in that time. So it was those kind of things that made me say, whatever this plane is called entertainment, I want to get on it. And wherever it's going, I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, even George Jefferson standing up against the man sometimes was
he was the answer to Archie Bunker. Literally. He was literally the answer to Archie Bunker. You got this sort of cantankerous racist guy and a black dude that's outspoken, and they both are insulting as hell to their children and everybody else around them. So, it just shows you how times have changed. I mean, you go back in cinema back in the black and white days, the honeymooners, I tell women all the time, be glad you got rights, because back in black and white cinema, when you start doing that, Humphrey Bogart would just slap you, finish smoking his cigarette, and you'd be just silent. You know what I'm saying? Times have changed, okay?
Absolutely.
You do that. They came out with Coming to America. They was like, oh, no, we're not going to have people hopping on their leg for no man. Like culturally, you have to remember, in the culture of those people in Zamunda, they still have the old school culture of male dominance. But we live in a time in America where it's like, oh, no, women run the world. So, you got Beyonce telling them, hey, we got rights.
There's no bark like a dog.
No, ain't gonna be none of that. No, we're not having that in this movie. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it just goes to show you how times change and how cinema has to sort of adjust with the times, because people have opinions about these things. Back when that movie came out, that was funny when she did that. But if you try to do that in 2022, women will be highly insulted. So it just shows you how times change and cinema sort of moves along with it.
Truth. So what was your first acting gig?
Wow. Well, the first one was Raising the Sun for as theater. Before as film, I want to say it was a movie called The Big Easy. It was a movie that came to town with Dennis Quaid, John Goodman, and I just had a bit part in it. I played a dude that did some crap that they cut out the movie, and then they made it look like we was the dudes that did the crap of the other two dudes that did some crap in the movie. But I just had sort of one line in the joint, but it was my first experience doing this, and I realized when I did it, this was for me. I was like, how can I get more lines? Can I say some more shit? Because this here right here, I could do this. You know what I'm saying? Y'all paying for this? Oh, I can do this all day.
So this is a question that kind of encompasses your whole career, even though we'll backtrack a little bit. Do you have any anxiety or anything before you perform, whether it's on stage, music, acting, whatever it is you do? Because some people deal with like that. I used to deal with that. I still have that pit of my stomach thing before I direct or act. And then once I'm doing it, I'm fine. Once I'm in the mix, I'm good. But did you ever have that going into performances of any type?
I used to. I used to have it all the time. I literally, it doesn't happen anymore, but for a long period of time, I'd be so excited about what it is that I have to do that there's that moment when you hear these words, roll camera, sound speed. So you hear all of these directions before they say action. And when you start hearing this stuff that we're about to go in. And somehow right there at that moment, I would always forget the line. Now, if I know the first line, I'm going to smoke the rest of it, but I forget the first line, I'm off. So right there at that moment, I would tend to forget the first line. So I think that was my nerves working. But it's like soon as they said action, I stopped thinking about it. And I just do it because there is no thinking at this point. The camera's rolling. We are on. There's no, let me look at the line right quick. You know what I'm saying? You don't have time for all that. So there's a second that I would panic in that. But somehow when they say action, I'm trained to sort of become the character. And at the moment they say action, Gary Sturgis leaves the building and whoever I'm playing comes in. And for you actors out there that's paying attention to this, if you want to know how to remember your lines, don't. Just be the character. They come to you. It's like it happens for me like that all the time. I never remember if I'm thinking about what I have to say, that I'm not actually giving the performance. I'm too busy working on the lines. So yeah, but now I don't have that problem anymore. It's like writer's block. I haven't had that in years. It's like once you understand the formula, how things work, you can sort of work your way around any problem that arises. So even with me now, I've had situations where I've had to do 22 pages of monologues, in one day. And all I'll ask is, can we do this one monologue at a time? Because there ain't nowhere on God's green earth I'm going. And see, that's the beautiful thing about film versus stage. We have the luxury of saying cut. We have the luxury of doing another take. So it's not like stage where you have to go straight through it. So film acting and stage acting, two totally different techniques. And you can tell when an actor comes from the stage and hits the film and he hasn't been on film much because they're still big. So it's a totally different style. It's way more subtle because the camera picks up everything. The microphone picks up everything. You don't have to do as much as you have to do for theater playing back to the cheap seats.
True. So how did the whole trajectory with Tyler Perry come about for you? That obviously you're a part of two of his big films. His first major one, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. When did you first meet him, and how did that all go about? Like auditioning for that first project, or did you know him prior to?
I knew him prior. Yeah, I knew him prior. I never auditioned for anything for him.
Okay.
We were friends in poverty. Back when I was 20 and he was 17, we met. I was doing a play, and he was sitting in the audience, and people thought I have three brothers, so they thought, "Oh, your brother came." And I looked out in the audience. I'm like, I don't know this dude. So I guess somebody asked him the same thing, and he said he didn't know me. But after the show, he introduced himself. We wound up hanging out. And we became good friends. So this is long before there was, any fanfare. I hadn't done anything. He hadn't done anything. It was just two guys, with a bunch of dreams. And he was a big Christian dude. So he kind of got me into going to church, which at the time I was a big non-Christian dude. Now, mind you, not against Christianity. I just wasn't a church person. I grew up in a household with parents named Abraham and Sarah. True story. Abraham and Sarah, and neither one of them went to church. So you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't, but my mama came from the school of everybody's gonna molest you. So it couldn't be in the Boy Scouts, I couldn't be in church, I couldn't be nowhere where there was adults that I couldn't be supervised. So it was a different kind of upbringing for me.
Gotcha. So did you enjoy playing the antagonist, the heavy in those projects?
Always.
I know when I get to play a bad guy, like it's a different mode. So
it comes easy, man. I totally enjoyed it because coming up where I came up, my brother was more that person than I was in real life. I was an A student in school. So when my friends started seeing these roles, they literally would watch the movie 5-6 times before it dawned upon them that it was me, because that's not the me they remember. But like I tell people, it's called acting. I'm not being me. Shit,
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I don't sell drugs. I use drugs. No, I'm just kidding. I don't sell drugs. I just, but I understand the nuances of character. So I study people. So one thing that I do all the time is when I tend to go out, I tend to observe people. I watch people's movement, people's behavior. I'm always curious to what makes people tick. So I find the reality of my characters by just studying people and trying to figure out what it is that makes people do what people do.
Yeah, I love that too. I've said that before on the show. Sometimes back in my early acting career, I would go to rest stops and just for hours and just watch different
just watch people,
life,
man. Yeah, because you have to be surprised. You'd be surprised at watching interactions of people, which you can glean, especially for me being a writer. There's so many characters out there walking the streets every day. And sometimes just by watching people, I can come up with something that I probably never would have thought of had I not. So, and you want to give, what makes for good cinema is giving people characters, situations, and storylines that are relatable. It's not about coming up with the most bizarre stuff I can come up with. It's about coming up with something that people have in common. Even if you're dealing with a UFO story or a zombie story, you're trying to find that human element that we all have in common: fear, love, basic human needs that we all have in common. And then you basically take that and put it in this situation. You know what I'm saying? You like, Walking Dead, you got, human beings fighting dead people and also fighting alive people, because the situation is so detrimental that you got food and guns and we need food and guns and.
And at its core, it is a microcosm of a love story, a soap opera, like
It's all those
all those
things. It's
things, and
all those
action and
things.
horror all mixed into one melting pot. So
Yeah, you
yeah,
just give it a backdrop. I mean,
yep,
everything is a human story with a backdrop. You know, the backdrop makes it wow, but ultimately we tune in because we care about the people, we care about the
yep.
characters, we care about their survival, we care about if they're going to make it to the next episode. You know, so we
Yep.
get vested, we get a vested interest, and that's what makes for good acting. So yeah, as far as playing the heavy, love it. I would, people remember the bad guy way more than they remember the good guy. So yeah, I'll be the bad guy all day.
I can say this that my mother, love her to death, the most amazing person on this planet. She will not watch anything that Steve Harris is in after watching Diary.
You know what? Your mom is like
will.
my mom. My mom felt the same way about Danny Glover. And I swear to you, I saw that man at Tyler Perry Studios and I told him, I said, Mr. Glover, my mom told me if I ever met you to let you know that she loves you as a talent. But after she saw you in The Color Purple, she never watched your Lethal Weapons. She never watched none of your other stuff until you did that movie with the little dog and you say, please don't shoot my dog. And when she heard you say that, she felt like you had a heart and she started watching you again. And that's a true story. And that man told me, and Danny Glover said to me, he said, well, I've seen your work. He said, I'm sure you get some of that kind of stuff too. I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, just know this. That means you did your job. If you got people feeling some kind of way, that means you did your job.
That's totally true. So JW from Generation Movie has a question. In looking at your incredibly eclectic career, what have you learned working in the writer's room for Tyler Perry?
That was the first experience I ever had working group. You know, I've always written solo. So that was my first group writing experience. What I learned is you have to be willing to put out a bunch of work and accept the fact that there's 7 other ideas and we have to cut stuff. So when you write an A story and a B story, you got this group writing the A story, this group writing the B story. When you bring it all together, it's 60 something pages. You know, we have to knock off 20, 30 pages. So some of those jokes are going to be yours. So the hardest part for me was compromise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you think you got a good joke. And I remember one day we had a thing, I'll share a little inside scoop with y'all. We had a thing where, if you would curse or say bad words, they would give you a little yellow sticky pad with a frowny face on it, right? So one day I was having a bad day. You know what I'm saying? I was in there and I've written some what I thought was good stuff. And when they went to doing the chops, they just pretty much everything. I was there for 12 hours. Everything I came up with hit the can, right? So at this point, I would say so. Every time they would say so, I was like, oh, damn, man. So they passed me a little sticky pad and I'd sit it, in front of my desk. So if Tyler walked in, he'd know who was cussing because, you'd have pads in front you stuck to your thing. I must have had about 22 of them. And then I started drawing things on them. Like it was all the same basic frowny face, but then I started putting bodies on them and bullets in their heads and, and arrows and shit going through them and your bullet reeling them and stuff. So I was having a really bad day that day because they were cutting a lot of my stuff. But that's what I learned more was compromise. And now I can run a writer's room now because now I understand how to get the best out of multiple writers. And I know how to present, because what they wasn't doing there was presenting us with what the storyline should be. And then we write the story from there. We literally had to come up with all that. But when I do stuff, I'll do a show Bible and say, here's the title of the episode. Here's what has to be accomplished in the episode. Now the writers can go and figure out how to make that happen. It makes it a lot easier for the writers because you kind of already know what production wants. It's just a matter of how you flavor it.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for that dope knowledge. And JW, we'll get back to your animation question in a bit. My next question is about Pride, the biopic about Jim Ellis, the swim coach from Philly. How did this project come to you, and how was this experience working on a biopic as a real life character?
Oh, wow. This one was interesting. It's actually one of my favorite movies for several reasons. It came about by a phone call. Somebody from Columbia Pictures or somewhere out the blue called my cell phone, and I'm thinking it's a joke. And like, hey, is this Gary Sturgis? Like, yeah, we got this movie for you. It's with Bernie Mac and Terrence Howard, which, as soon as I heard that, I was like, whoa, what is it? What is it? I had no idea what the hell it was. Never saw the script. They just said, but we're going to need you to go and take a physical today in LA and then get on a plane tonight and be in New Orleans. I'm like, New Orleans? Oh, that's my hometown. This is perfect. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know anything about what this movie was about. I just knew who was in it and where it was shooting, and I needed to take a physical. So I didn't see the script until I was halfway there on the plane, and I'm flipping through the script and I'm like, okay, it's a swim movie. Okay, well, hold on. Whoa. What's this shit right here about I got to get drowned? Man, I can't swim for real. Nobody talked to me about this shit. So it was awkward when I got there because the director is an African guy. He brings me to his office. He's eating lunch and he's like, okay, so Gary, the character I want you to play, he's an amalgamation of all these different people. And so he's not one person, he's like a lot of people that Jim dealt with. So you can kind of, just play him as mean as you want. Okay. Now, there wasn't a lot of dialogue. When I looked at the script for what he was describing, there wasn't a lot of dialogue to reflect that. So he was the type of director that would never say cut. The scene been over for 2.5, 3 minutes. He just let us go. So a lot of what you saw in Pride was a director who allowed actors to play. You know what I'm saying? We played way beyond the script. 90% of the dialogue that you heard me say in Pride was stuff that we did ad-libbing because he just allowed us to embody our characters. That was probably the first time in my career that I ever felt as comfortable. I think from that movie moving forward, my comfort level in front of screen became very, very, very powerful because now I had been in a situation where somebody wasn't restricting my talent. They were giving me creative rights. And I would go to him and say, hey, for this scene, I got this idea. I want to. And before I could say it, he said, no. Don't tell me. Show me. I'm like, what? You gonna just let me do it like on screen, no rehearsal or nothing, just, give it to you on screen. So it made me feel very comfortable to be in a situation that was constantly challenging. And it was set in the 70s. So we had to be sure when we were ad-libbing that the ad-lib stayed, in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was easy because we shot half them scenes 7 blocks from where I grew up at. I could walk to my house from where we shot at, some of those things. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting experience. I wouldn't trade that one for the world. And then if you didn't see the DVD, it's on there if you don't believe me. I can't swim. The first time I went in the water, I almost drowned. They had to pull me out. I had to, get my stomach, pump out some chlorine and stuff. And all this happened in front of Bernie Mac and the rest of the cast. And it was literally my first time hitting the water. We shot it. It wasn't no rehearsal. I just, got thrown into 13 feet of water with clothes on. You know what I'm saying?
So how do you end up no acting in the world is going to make you a great swimmer on the spot? How do you get through that? Is there
there was a stunt double.
Stunt double. Okay.
I had a stunt double, but what they didn't tell me, here's the joke, right? They said if you run into any problems, right? This is all the lies they tell you before you start. I'm gonna tell the truth. I'm telling the truth to the world. First, Terrence Howard comes up to me. Look, I know you can't swim, so every time I got to take you under 3 times. So every time I bring you up, take a breath, and when you look at me, I'll pull you back down. That's what Terrence Howard said. That's not what Jim Ellis, his character, said when he got in character, right? So then I got them telling me, well, Gary, when you if you feel like you're in danger, just pat the top of your head and we'll cut the scene. What they didn't tell me is we're watching the camera, which is underwater. I'm literally looking at Video Village. I'm looking at them. I'm looking dead at everybody, but they're all looking at the monitor, which is pointing at my feet. So I'm patting the shit out my head every time I come up. And Terrence keeps and I was choking on chlorine from the moment he pushed me in the water. Watch the scene when I'm peeing in the pool. When he pushed me in the water, I was talking. So my mouth was still open. So I swallowed water the moment I hit the pool. So I was from the very beginning like, let's do over. But mind you, while I'm doing that, he's beating up 2 people. Then he jumps in the water. The whole time I'm choking. Then he jumps in the water, and I know I got to go under 3 times. He must have took me about 4 or 5 feet under, So I remember flailing and seeing lights and stars. They don't be lying about that shit. Your life does flash before you. It really does. I saw my childhood. I just saw, what this gonna look like in the newspaper tomorrow. All this shit was happening in the 3 times that I went under this water. And I kept coming up, and each time I was slapping my head more and more each time, right? But they didn't do nothing. So the 3rd time I came up, I'm looking at my stunt double. I am looking at him. I can't talk. I'm like, so I saw him diving in, and I just figured if I could just hang a few more seconds, I'll be okay. He pulled Terrence off of me. They got me out the water. I'm looking at Bernie Mac and everybody standing over me as I'm laying there coughing up chlorine. And then it was like, okay, we got to do it again.
Oh, man. Oh, man. You gotta love acting. You gotta love acting.
Yeah, I've been in 2 situations where I had to deal with water, and they both were very challenging. But I'm a G, man. You know, I don't like shots. I don't like being in water. But if I gotta do them, I'm gonna do them. So
it's, you gotta do it to get the paycheck. Get the paycheck. Yes. So that obviously that was a great experience minus the water.
Oh yeah,
but but have you ever dealt with any, like, obviously you grew up in a different time, like that some of the cats that are watching, some of the younger artists or whatever, but have you dealt with any like blatant prejudice or anything in your Hollywood deals and things like that? Things that were right in your face. You're going out for a lot of roles that again, or some are very stereotypical, some are roles that we live in a world now where we always have conversations with peers of mine how it feels like there's like 5 black men that can only be in movies at a time,
right?
In like different realms or whatever. So in your time, can you share, like, if you're willing, can you share anything that you're?
I got a couple of them because I'm good at this kind of stuff, you know, because I probably experienced it more in voiceover than I did in acting. The only time I ever experienced it acting, I did a low budget movie out here in Cali. Must have been early 90s. And the scene, you know, it was like a sweatshop, you know, and there are a whole bunch of Mexican people working in the sweatshop, and then like the black crew that work in the sweatshop shows up late, which was already, you know, stereotypically written wrong, because not only do we show up late, right, we show up with a boom box and come like a soul train in this motherfucker, right? So I was like, okay, now, you know, this ain't like a real movie. This some low budget shit. So I'm probably going to be a little bit more open about how I feel about it while I'm on the set. And I remember we walked in the first time. I hired some of my wife's kids, you know, the cousins and stuff, had them play some of the black kids with me. We walk in, and somebody from way in the back, when they said cut, said, "Can you be more black?" See, they picked the wrong one. I'm not from Cali. I'm a New Orleans dude. I'm used to this kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? So, so I was like, so the first thing is that the bass dropped down, and I'm like, who said that? Who said that shit? And it was like you can hear a pin drop, right? One thing about racists, you know, they get real quiet when you call them on their shit. So I'm like, who said it? So the director's like, oh, just let it go. It's no big deal. No, it's a big deal because somebody told me who's black to be more black. I don't know what you want me to be more black in the stereotypical way, more black. You know what? I got to hold my nuts or something. I'm not black. I've been black my whole goddamn life. If I walked in, that was black. Fuck wrong with y'all, right? Yeah. So that was one. But in voiceover, I get it all the time. I used to do UPN, the voice of UPN. And some of the people that would direct me would just, they didn't know how to say that they wanted it more urban. So they would say shit like, can you make it more, I'm like, just go ahead and say it, man. I mean, you know, just, can it be more street, more, I'm like, you want it to be more black? Yeah. So I would say the same shit all the time. I said, I've been black since 1966, baby. However I bring it, that's more black. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that all black. I say, tell you what I'm gonna do for y'all. Tell you what I'm gonna do. This time, I'm gonna turn my baseball cap backwards and I'm gonna grab my nuts, roll the tape. You know what I'm saying? And I would read that shit the exact same way. And they'd be like, yeah, that was it.
No,
I did the same shit.
No, you did the same thing. I
just played into y'all stereotypes of black people. I used to run them. They get scared of me all the time because I'm very outspoken when that kind of stuff happens. My thing is, don't say what you mean. Say be more black so I can tell you to be more white. Say be more black so I can tell you to be more white. Because you're not, when you hear it back, you're not gonna appreciate it the way that you said it. You know what I'm saying? Until you hear that kind of shit, it's like, be more black. I've been black my whole life. You can't tell me how to do it. You ain't never done it. You know, what you're telling me is to be a white dude version of what a black dude is. When I'm telling you, black people will accept it the way I gave it to them because I'm black. I don't have to say yo. All black people ain't into that. Now, Brandon, you know, I met you. We hung out and stuff. You're definitely not one of the kind of brothers that come off with that kind of vibe. So that's not for everybody. There's a stereotype that all black people are just, you know, yo, baseball caps to the side. We're all not that way. So my palatable read was the read I was taught to do, just like white America's read is.
Yeah.
Except you want me to. I said, do you ask the white people to make it more, European? You know what I'm saying? No, you just ask them to read the shit, to the best of their ability. So we deserve the same thing. But I would get that all the time in voiceover. I would, you would hear it a lot in voiceover all the time, and I would make fun of it every single time.
I still remember, like, one of my first ever read for an agent, probably about 25 years ago, as an actor, was at this school in Weiss Baron Ryan, Atlantic City, and this white representative, she was in her 60s. She comes in, I do a monologue for, and after she's like, "Oh my God, that was amazing. You sound so eloquent." She's like, "Where did you learn to speak so eloquent? Have you taken linguistic classes?" And I was like, no, I was raised to speak. Like, I wasn't raised on Ebonics or whatever. And she was like literally blown away. Her face was just like,
I've never met such an articulate Negro.
Exactly. It was just so and I always remember it to this day. And she was blown away. I could do, like, she was seeing dollar signs. Like, I've never met one of you, and we could do things
right. Do you
on
know
Broadway,
you're
and
right.
And you're like, and I was just like, it just, again, it was. I've never encountered anything like that, but that was the first time, and I'm probably, I want to say 22, 23, and she was just so blown away. She's like, "You sure you've never taken any linguistic classes, or you speak so clearly?" And I was just like, "Am I supposed?" And I didn't want to be ignorant, because she's the representative from New York there watching all of us, and I'm like, "Am I supposed to sound ignorant? Am I supposed to do the yo yo yo?"
It's all right. That's what's expected. I'm telling you, that's what's expected. They used to call me, growing up in my neighborhood, they used to call me white boy, and I'm the darkest dude in my family, right? But they call me white boy because I was trying to not, master speaking like I'm from the South. I was trying to, because I wanted to do something more commercial with my life. And I felt like a regional accent was going to hurt me. So I would try to talk as articulate as possible, which is kind of hard to do when everybody around you is talking broken English. So it stuck out. And I would often be called white boy. And I once said to somebody, I said, "Why do we equate white with right?" You know what I'm saying? I'm just speaking the Queen's English the way the Queen's English is meant to be spoken. It's not a racial thing. No, you know what I'm saying? It's a choice to be articulate or not. And that's not really, because I got white friends that I grew up with in my neighborhood. They talk more slang than the black people. You know what I mean? Yeah. These dudes are blacker than me when it comes to, you know what I'm saying? I take you around some of these dudes, you be like, damn, he used the N-word. He used the N-word just fluidly, and nobody's saying nothing because he act like one of them people. So it's like, but I'm the opposite. I've always been, it was never to me to try to be white, which is what people would say when you were articulate. Yeah. It was just trying to be articulate. And I think we as a society, especially us as a people, we've got to get out of that mindset of believing that just because I'm trying to be better in the way I present myself to the world, it doesn't take away my blackness. It doesn't take away my street card. It doesn't take away my hood rights. You know, it just means that when I walk into certain rooms, the people who are giving me those, I'm smiling because I don't want you to rob me smiles, and just, be at ease. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to harm you. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause that's always, now that was funny growing up. You always walk past white people. To this day, I walk past white people, and, for the white people out there that's watching this, maybe you can let me know. You can hit me on my social media and tell me why this is. But what is this guilt smile that y'all do when y'all pass black people? Is it because you think we gonna rob you, or you feel guilty about 400 years of oppression? I don't know what it is. It's just that every time I walk past a white person, they do this. It's like, what the? Say hi, motherfucker. What is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? Say hi. What is with that cheesy ass, fake smile? It's like, I'm smiling because I don't want you to think I'm threatening. Hell, bears don't even think you're threatening. Y'all walk up to anything. Shit, nothing thinks you're threatening. You know what I'm saying? Hey, there's an alien. Let's go talk to it. Only race of people I know do that shit. Every other race of people to start shooting and running. White people be like, no, it's a bear. I'm gonna go and feed it, and we're gonna sit down and talk. I'm sitting there be like, y'all got some balls, man. My white friends got balls. I love y'all. Y'all do ballsy shit. Like, hey, let's jump out of plane. For what? You know, I'm gonna die anyway. I don't understand your idea of fun. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could tell the entitlement. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm comfortable enough to try shit to be death defying. All my black friends be like, I barely want to get on the roller coaster on the front. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but that's all because culturally we've been sort of withheld from things, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it shows when we start to break barriers like golf and tennis, we start to break these barriers of things that, you know, swimming, you know, like pride, swimming, you know, things that we weren't sort of having access to. But once we get access to stuff, we'll master anything if given an opportunity. But I think a lot of us, you know, we're so used to not having the opportunity that when we get the opportunity, we start to equate it with something other than just being blessed. You know, it's got to be connected to a race. No, it's not connected to a race. It's connected to your effort.
Yep. Amen to that. Amen to everything you said. So you built an awesome career over the years, an extensive career of voiceover for cartoons, video games, everything. Yes. I have a question. I'm just going to go to JW's question and I'll ask mine. You've been the voice of a Batman villain and a Scooby-Doo villain in the same life. How cool is that? So speak a little bit on that.
Crazy. For those who don't know, I played this character, the Phantom Virus, this guy right here, in Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. It was totally interesting to be a part of that project because a lot of the guys who do that cartoon, like Frank Welker, who's been playing Fred since Fred was in existence, is still alive and voicing that character. This man is old, but still does that voice, you know what I'm saying? Like he's been doing it since he was young. So, you know, the cat that plays Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo is the same guy. He's from Louisiana. He's like the third guy to do it. The other two have, you know, since the cartoon came about, but he does both Scrappy and Scooby. So I remember when I went to do my thing, it was kind of funny because they're all in there and they're doing, I mean, every voice you could imagine, man. If you close your eyes, you heard Denzel, you heard, you know, Johnny Carson. They were able to impersonate any and everybody. So after about 15 minutes of them playing with their voices, they turned to me and they said, so what voice you doing for the Phantom Virus? And I swear to you, I was so nervous. I was like, wow, I'm intimidated, y'all. I'm going to figure it out when I get in there. I swear I said that. And even when I got the job, it was funny because I did the audition and they liked me for the audition. But at the time, I used to smoke cigarettes heavy. You see, I vape now. At the time, I used to smoke cigarettes heavy. And the character was described as having a maniacal laugh. So I kind of half-assed the laugh at the audition because I didn't want to start coughing. So they called me. I was driving down Hollywood Boulevard, and the agent called me on the phone. He said, Gary, we got a situation. I said, what? They said, well, they want you for this Scooby-Doo project. I said, okay. They said, but they're kind of on the fence about your laugh. You know, I said, so what are you saying? Said, if you can they're on the phone right now. I could click over. If you could just bust a laugh over the phone, you can get the job right now. Boy, I had water. I sat there, drank me some water, coughed a little bit. I said, give me a second. Drank me some water, rolled up my window, and just cackled my ass off. Okay, I swear I'm driving down Hollywood Boulevard. I'm just going in, boy. And that's how I got the job. So it's like, so yeah, it's the stories that come with these jobs is always interesting. It's not always cut and dry. You know, even the way I got involved in some of this stuff is because I would go in to do some of the smaller roles, like the small characters, a little 1 line, 2 line, you know, scream when the building fall type stuff. And because I'd be sitting there and they hear me talking, they'd be like, we gotta do something with this dude. So I remember even with Ebon on Static Shock, I did a small part on Static Shock. And the guy said to me when I walked out, he said, man, we like your voice. We're going to bring you back for something. I'm like, yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, you hear that all the time. You don't think nothing of it. About 6 months later, they called me back. They gave me the role of Ebon. I remember when I did the character, at the very end, Static Shock hits him with the light, right? And he dissipates, right? Yeah. And in my mind, he died. You know, I play bad guys all the time, and we always die. So I'm used to dying. You know what I'm saying? So I'm ignorant. Show you my ignorance. I don't know anything. I walk out. The engineers are all sitting there, and I say the same thing every time. I say, hey, guys, I just want to thank you for the opportunity that you guys gave me to feed my family. You know, I appreciate it, you know. And they all just start laughing. So I said, what are y'all laughing at? They said, dude, it's a cartoon. You don't die. You're coming back. And I'm like, oh, I'm coming back? I thought the character died. He said, dude, it's a cartoon. Characters don't die. I'm like, I never thought about that. Oh my God.
Sure.
So I wound up doing that cartoon for 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Thinking I was dead
Sure.
every time I did it. So it was.
So I have a question from Joe from the Indie Escape Network. I believe Carrie Means from Aqua Team Hunger Force had the same issues with voiceovers. I think he was speaking about like some of the race issues and some of the things. Yeah. So yeah. So when you're doing those voiceovers, are you in the individual like sound stage yourself, like sound booth yourself, or
No.
are you there sometimes playing off of? I know for Static, like I read that
we're
like
all in the same room. When we did Static, we were all in the same room. So it's a big ass room. We're all sitting semicircle.
Oh, okay.
The director's outside of the window, and I want y'all to notice I'm doing a Comic-Con in Sacramento at the top of the month, the 1st and the 2nd. For those in Sacramento that's watching, I'll be at the Comic-Con out there, and I'll be at the one in Vegas in December as well, because I'm starting to do those now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been requested for that kind of stuff lately, and it's actually pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? I never been involved with that kind of stuff, but it's been some pretty cool stuff. So if you guys are in Sac or in Vegas in December, I'll be at both of those cons if you want to come out and talk shop and talk about cartoons and stuff. But the process is pretty interesting. We're sitting in a room. For those who don't know, we sit in a room the first time we tape it. We're all just in a room with a script in front of us. We don't see the characters. We don't see the animation. We just have a director who has a bigger script. And in their script, they have all of that stuff, all of the visuals, what's going to be happening, what they're adding. So they tell you, like they'll say, okay, you're playing Bronze Tiger. You're on top of a 100-story building. So they give you a visual. You're on top of a 100-story building. You're fighting. He knocks you off the building. So you have to do the, and then, basically fall 100 stories. And they just do this. And, just keep going, keep falling. We know how long we making it. Keep falling. And then you hit the ground and you. So you do all of that stuff without ever really seeing anything but a picture of the character that you're voicing. And then about 6 months later, after the animators do their stuff, you come back in, and anything that didn't match your mouth movement, they have you reread, because now you can see the character. Okay. In my case, I was fortunate because Ebon didn't have a mouth. You know what I'm saying? He's a shadow. So I could pretty much do whatever I wanted. You know what I'm saying? He didn't really have a mouth. Yeah. So it's like, so I was able to do pretty much what I wanted. But they would tape us, just so you know, they would run a camera. There's a camera that would sit on our stands. So when we were reading, the camera was capturing our images, and then they would take a piece of our image and put that into these characters. Like Ebon, if you notice, he wore a vest. If you notice, I'm wearing a jersey. When I would go to do the voiceover sessions, I was always in jerseys or vests. So when they created the character, they gave a piece of me to him. He has an earring in his ear, just like I do. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, my hair was cornrowed like that. So when they created the character, they sort of like Kevin Michael Richardson plays Static's father. He's sort of a tall black dude, sort of a belly or whatever. They made the character somewhat like the people who were playing. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And every week we got to work with a celebrity. We always had a celebrity guest on Static Shock. So I got to work with Shaquille O'Neal and Alfred Woodard.
Nice.
What's my boy's name? God, I can't think of that boy's name. I see his face. But it was a slew of stars. Every week we would get to work with somebody, and they were always coming into the situation intimidated because they were used to being on camera.
Yeah.
And this is all voice. You know what I'm saying? So you can come in in some flip-flops with a full beard. Nobody cares. But it's not.
I saw that Dwayne Wayne was on that too. Kadeem Hardison.
He played my brother. He played that. That's why my first time meeting Kadeem, he played my brother, Rubber Band Man. So when they added that to the story, it was pretty cool. People don't know this, but a lot of the cast of A Different World, though you don't see them acting, a lot of them do animation. Cree Summer is one of the biggest animation people out there. I've worked with her quite a few times. Cree, if you're out there listening, Cree said something. We was on set. It was hot one day, and we was all outside taking a break, and she just said some shit. She's like, "It is hot as the devil's ass." I never forgot it. It was, people say something, and she talks really proper. So when she said it, it just resonated with me and stuck with me. So I was like, "Man, it's hot as the devil's ass. That's pretty hot." You know what I'm saying? But that was something Cree said. But Cree and Kadeem, a lot of these people are doing animation. So for those who don't know what they've been doing, they're still working. They just playing characters.
And there's good money in that too.
Oh, there's
on
great
these shows.
money in it. There's great money in it.
Absolutely. All right, so we're at the point of the show where I do this weekly called One Sentence or Silence. Basically, I throw a name at you that you've worked with, and you tell me a couple lines about them, good or bad. And if you stay silent, that means they suck, and you don't want to say nothing. All
Okay.
right. All right. So the first name I'm gonna throw at you, Michael Blackson.
Funny. Giving a normal guy in person, not anything like he is. Not even with the accent. You don't hear none of that when you're working with him or talking to him. He just does all that when he's on screen. So that was kind of surprising.
All right, Maya.
Interesting. I enjoyed working with Maya. I'm just not sure if Maya enjoyed working with me. So I don't, I have anything negative to say. I didn't like. It wasn't so much her. It was the storyline of Fifth Ward. I didn't like the character arc or what they did with the character, or the fact that they shot the second season and she was only available for 5 days. So 90% of my storyline was compromised because of that. So I don't have anything against her personally, but chemistry, I don't know.
All right, Chris Stokes.
Love Chris Stokes. Chris has been he's been an advocate for Gary Sturgis for a minute. We have a dope new series coming out called Foster's Law. Brian White is the star of it. I play an antagonist in the story, but it should be coming on Fubu Network pretty soon, sometime this year. But Chris is amazing. I love working with him. He does great work, fun to work with. We have a very, very good working relationship. I work with Chris anytime he calls me.
Awesome. Michael Madsen.
Oh, I think Michael is from the, make sure I call the project right. Michael, I believe, was a director, producer for In the Shadows, I believe. Yeah, I don't know Michael well. We only did one project together. I mean, we did good work. We had fun doing the show. For those who don't know, I have a show called In the Shadows that's also on the new Fubu network, For Us, By Us network. It's online streaming network. But I have a show called In the Shadows that's hot as hell on there. And yeah, Michael, put me on that show. So yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Michael. Love to work with you again, Mike.
All right, Idris Elba.
Love Idris, one of the most giving actors I've ever worked with. I remember when we shot the scene where we're in the class, we're in the office talking about the marijuana, the kids selling dope. Tyler didn't know how he wanted to shoot that scene. I thought about overnight what I wanted to do. And I went to Idris that morning and I say, hey, Idris, how do you feel about this? Because, he's the star, so you got to ask him how he feels about, what I'm presenting. But I thought it would work for both of us. And I said, well, how about when you extend the weed, how about I take your hand, wrap you, around your back, and I grab you like this, and that way we got both our faces right here. He loved it. So when it was time to shoot it, and Tyler went to block, and I say, Tyler, let me show you something. And me and Idris got up and did it. And he said, okay, let's just shoot that. So I actually directed that scene myself, but I got to give him credit because as the lead actor, he could have very well said, nah, you don't be grabbing on me like that, whatever. No, but he's a very giving actor. I love him to death. I work and I've actually hired him to DJ for a party for me before. So he's also a damn good DJ.
Oh, cool. Yeah. That's a dope scene. That's very memorable.
Yeah, right. I came up with that. Me?
Yeah, there you go. All right, Elise Neal.
Elise is cool. I never got to work with her personally. You know what I'm saying? We've done some sort of like in the same project, but never in the same room thing.
Yeah.
So I never got to meet Elise, but I'd love to meet Elise and work with her. I've always liked to work, but you've shared screens, but never shared screen time.
Gotcha. Cedric the Entertainer.
Ceddy, that's my man. Excuse me. Kel Mitchell asked me to do a movie he was doing called Chicago Pulaski Jones. It eventually became Dance Fu. Cedric was set to direct it. At the time, I had never met Cedric. Daddy's Little Girls had come out, and I was in Vegas for All-Star Weekend. And it just so happens we was in the same VIP area, and I literally almost bumped into him getting some coffee and was too busy stirring my coffee to notice he was right in front of me. And my publicist said, I was Cedric the Entertainer. I'm like, why you didn't tell me I wanted to meet him? But as I'm walking out, his guy came up to me and said, hey, are you that dude that be in the Tyler Perry movies? I said, yeah, because my movie had literally just came out that Thursday. It was like that Saturday. And he was like, Cedric wanted to meet you. He was standing around the corner. So I go around the corner, I meet him. And I say, well, man, it's a pleasure to meet you. Big fan, whatever, we, exchange love or whatever. And 3 weeks later, He's directing Chicago Pulaski Jones, and I'm like, well, Cedric, you know, you got to come audition. I'm like, you know who I am? He met me at the damn in Vegas, you know. So yeah, so I want to work with him. He was funny to work with. Cedric is funny. Man, that dude's funny. Even when he was directing me, he's like, look, I want you to be dead. Like in the scene where I was dead in the chair. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but there's a scene where I'm dead in the chair and I'm pale. Yeah. And he said, look, I want you to be dead, right? But every time somebody say something in the eulogy, I want you to change your expression, but still be dead. I couldn't stop laughing when the way he sold it to me. I saw it in my head. I couldn't stop laughing. So he's comedy.
That's great. All right, the late Tiny Lister.
Difficult to work with. I have nothing against Tiny personally. God rest his soul, good guy, but he was the film that I hired him to work on. He was just very, very, very difficult with his ankle bracelet on. Yeah, he was being very, very difficult. He was Hollywooding on me, but kind of one of them situations like pay me my money up front type situation, which caused a problem with another actor, Andrew Baranowski, on the set. Because we sort of had everything going through SAG, and he wanted his thing his way, and or he ain't gonna perform, so we had to go pay him his money right down the spot. Then he didn't want to do the last scene that he needed him to shoot, and then he was doing stuff like he didn't like Andrew. They got into an argument, and then all of a sudden he's like, kept steadily calling by his character name, Crow. I'm like, you're a zombie, bro. You don't talk. You're a zombie, bro. How many times I gotta tell you, man? He's like, who are you? Who are you? So I'm like, I'm the damn director, the writer. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just the guy that paid you. You know what I'm saying? So nobody important, bro. Nobody important. So he had no idea who I was or had ever seen my work. So he was a little difficult to work with, but I got love for him.
Okay. All right. This is a very underrated actor. I've always thought Miguel Nunez.
Miguel's crazy as hell. Underrated, totally underrated. I give Miguel 100% credit. There's a movie that I wrote when my mom died. I wrote a script called 2016. It was a zombie apocalypse story about the beginning of a zombie apocalypse. Yeah. And it was going to shoot it low budget with a friend of mine out here in a warehouse in Riverside. And the day my mom passed, I wrote the script. Literally, the day I put her in the ground, I wrote the script in 24 hours. And forgive my dog. My dog's knocking on the door. I wrote the script in 24 hours. And all of a sudden, Miguel gave it to Lionsgate, and Lionsgate decided to run with it. And they gave us $300,000 to shoot. They let me direct it. So Miguel's a well-connected guy. Very good friends with Eddie Murphy. He knows Miguel's plugged in. You know what I'm saying? He's plugged in. So yeah, I got nothing bad to say about Miguel Nunez. Good guy.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember we talked a little bit on the set of False Pretense about that. I still want to check that out. So and finally, Sinbad.
Me and Sinbad never met. I did when he was doing Vibe, when he was the host of Vibe. Yeah. I was the voice promotion for the show. So I would do my stuff separate from what he was doing. So I would do my promotion one place, he would do the show somewhere else. So Sinbad and I never met. I've actually never met him at all. But I've never had anything against the man. He helped me make a lot of money. So indirectly, you know what I'm saying? Thanks, Sinbad. I would have done Vibe for another 2 years, but every 13 weeks he would ask for more money. So they got to a point where they just didn't want to keep paying him more money, and that's why the show got canceled.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw a little glass curveball. Shout out to my mom, Steve Harris.
Steve, good people, man. Steve, to this day, if Steve runs into somebody I know and they mention that they know me, Steve will give that person his number to give to me. This is every time he runs into somebody I know. Good dude, real good dude. Another giving actor, somebody I enjoy working with, and would definitely work with again. Him and his brother Wood. I never met Wood. I've talked to Wood before, but I've worked with Steve.
Talented brothers, definitely.
But they're both very talented.
Yes, you got through it. All right. So we're gonna. You mentioned this a little bit. So what does screenwriting and directing do for you, for your soul, like as a creative?
I used to think acting was my thing. And I remember a group of agents told me one time, they said, well, do you want to direct? I said, no, I have no interest in that, whatever. They said, oh, it's going to bite you. And sure enough, it did. I think from a writer and director standpoint, it's so much more embodying of telling the story and getting the story both from paper to visual. And I'm being an actor, you kind of get caught up in the creative process of just your character and your character's storyline. But when you're the director or you're the writer, You're involved in everything from the first scene to the last scene, and that's both on paper and visually. So it's a lot more responsibility. I find that, when I direct, I find that I don't sleep as much. As an actor, I can, I'm done at 2. I'm done. Everybody else still shooting. But as a director, you're the first there, last to leave, and you're working long hours afterwards because you're setting up the next day. So I like being that involved in the process. I think I have a good visual eye when I write stories. I just wrote, just give you an example, a guy hired me to write a 6-part series, half-hour show of a spinoff character of a movie that he has on Tubi. Actually, he has 4 of them on Tubi. It's I think it's Circumstances 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's a character he plays that he wanted to do a spinoff on. So he told me what the character was. I watched the movies. He told me what he wanted. He wanted the whole thing to be set in jail. And I think that was 9 days ago. I gave him the 6 script this morning. So wow. Yeah, I don't be playing, man. I write. You know what I'm saying?
Remember, you said you were in the zone when I was hitting you up about the show.
I was trying to get it out there. You know what I'm saying? When I tell people I'm gonna do something for them, I gave him the 3rd script, and there was a storyline that I saw in my head, and I started running with it with one of the characters. He did not like it. He's like, can we just kill that whole storyline? So when I killed the storyline, there was only 7 pages of script left. So instead of moving on to script 5, I said, well, let me just redo script 3 again. So I redid it, the whole different concept, gave it to him. He's like, now that's what I'm talking about. And then I ran from there. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's once I know what you want, it's pretty easy for me to give it to you. So, it took me 9 days to write 6 scripts.
Oh man! All right, so I saw you also, I don't know if you still do webinars or teach, but do you still teach different things like?
Well, I do sometimes. What I do most of the time now is when I do a webinar, I tape it so that way I don't have to keep doing it over and over, and I just sell the one that I tape because it gets kind of repetitive for me to say the same stuff over and over and over to a camera. So
that's for voiceover or for acting or for different
voiceover. I do. I haven't done anything for acting just yet. I used to do those years ago, but so many people were doing them that I said, well, let me teach people something a little bit more intricate, which is voice. And there's a lot more commercials and stuff out there. And there's a lot of this stuff you could do from home, especially with COVID. There's a lot of jobs you get from home. So I want to teach people a skill set of something that they could do while sitting on their ass. Because acting ain't for everybody, but reading is fundamental. You know what I'm saying? So, I tell you, if you can read and talk, I can teach you how to make money.
Nice. All right, Gabe from one of our other podcasts on Tuesday nights said, "Come to New York Comic-Con maybe next year."
Yeah, actually, I got an agent. Thank you for that suggestion. I'll throw it out to my agent. I have an agent specifically for that. This year is the first year that he sort of put me out there. So I was too late for the Philly one that they had. I was too late for Dragon Con. So, now that I'm on the roster, I'll probably be showing up at all of that stuff next year. So it's new to me. It's new to me. I never done this kind of stuff before. And it was like, I remember I did one in Chatsworth, and this one kid, he knew more about the cartoon than I did. You know what I'm saying? He's telling me shit. I'm like, dude, I wasn't in that episode. I don't know nothing about that. If I wasn't in it, I don't know nothing about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, no. And then the character in this, I'm like, dude, I'm not even in that one. I don't know. So it's kind of like,
it's amazing though. It's amazing what fans bring. I go to a lot of these genre conventions, and you're right. Some of them know the movie backwards and forwards. The cartoons.
I was embarrassed. I'm like, I just voiced the shit, man. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta start binging your own,
right? I gotta go watch. And here's the funny thing. True story. Half the cartoons that I've done, I've never seen. So I don't really watch cartoons. So the way I bump into this stuff is like one time when Katrina happened, I happened to be at my mother-in-law's house, and I'm sleeping, and the Saturday morning cartoons just came on the TV, and I woke up to hearing myself in Fairly Odd Parents. I'd never seen Fairly Odd Parents, but I was on it, you know what I'm saying? But I'd never seen it. And I heard my own voice, and I woke up like, damn, I remember saying that. Where's that coming from? And I wake up and I look at it, I'm like, oh, damn, that's me. And I've never seen the character I voiced or none of that stuff. So, like even when I did Red Faction, the video game years ago, they had me playing this big white Dolph Lundgren looking dude. Looks straight like Dolph Lundgren. So when they showed me the picture, I'm like, I'm doing the voice for that guy? All right, you know what I'm saying? You about to sound black like a mother, you know what I'm saying?
so I asked this, that's why I asked this question to every guest, and I'm gonna ask it in two parts to you because you're
Sure.
so multifaceted. If you could act in any film of any budget, right now, what would it be?
You mean film that's actually that people would know?
Yeah, well, no. I mean, just something brand new that you could do, like moving forward. If somebody said that it's a blank check, you could be any character in any movie. What would it be right now?
I would do this movie I wrote called The Grigori. Actually, I would do that in Hannibal. I always wanted to do a story about Hannibal Barca, the war general
Okay.
from Carthage. I always wanted to do a story about him, and I wrote a great script. And I wanted to do a story about the Grigori, the 200 angels that watched over man at the beginning of time. You know, there's a great story there. I did a lot of biblical research. You know, we know, God created the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested. And what they don't tell you is on the eighth day he boned out. But when he left these 200 angels to sort of monitor things while he was out doing great God things. We know one of these angels is Satan. In my story, his actual name was Semyaza. And basically it's the story of why man is in the situation he's in and how these angels had a lot to do with that. And it's not the good versus evil story that they teach you in the Catholic Church, because once I did my research, I realized this is not a good versus evil story. This is a kinship versus non-kinship story. This is a story about I created something, but I left it. And I left something else with it that took a liking to it and spent time with it. So that's what the story is about. It gives you a totally different look at the Grigori, because think about it. God wouldn't possibly hire angels that's going to destroy what he built if he thought that that's what they was going to do. He didn't do that. He hired angels that he thought would do what they were supposed to do, but they took a liking to man. And they made wives of women. They taught men how to read the stars, astrology, women how to wear makeup, taught men how to make weapons of mass destruction. These were the things that the Grigori were known for doing to and for man. But it was all because man wanted these things. It was like, it's like you pray to God and say, oh, I want this. Well, the Grigori were right there saying, well, that's what you want here. Go have it. Now, God didn't tell me that you wasn't going to be prepared for it. See, that's the thing about man. It was never that the Grigori were out to do anything wrong to man. God just knew man wasn't ready for these things. So he didn't want us to have these things because we just weren't ready. And the Grigori didn't care if you were ready. They gave you what you wanted, which is kind of how you see, a whole bunch of people that you say, well, how did they come up and, and they prayed up? How did that happen? Because if you read the Bible, if you actually read it, a lot of people don't read the Bible. They just skim through the parts, that cherry pick the parts that apply to them. Well, this part made me look good. This part made me look good. You know what I'm saying? You gay people are wrong, but I'm an adulterer and I'm totally okay. So it's like, we are cherry picking the Bible, but I actually read the book. And I also read a lot of the books outside of the Bible that were taken out of the Bible. And those books tell the story that's missing in the Bible. You have in the whole Bible, you hear a story about the David and Goliath. So there's this giant that we keep hearing this story about, but nobody tells you where this giant came from. Well, in my story, we talk about where the giant came from. The giant is a product of angel and man. These angels took wives of women and they bore children. Those children were called the Nephilim. The Nephilim became these giants that was walking around eating up people because they couldn't feed them. So they started eating the people. So God had to get rid of these things. When he found out about this was an abomination, and he literally had the angels of vengeance slay all of the Grigori, all of the Nephilim in front of their parents. So 200 angels got to watch their kids get chopped the hell down because y'all shouldn't have done that. So they don't have the book of Enoch in the Bible because in that book, you find out that angels slept with man. And church don't want to teach you that. Church don't want to teach you that.
No.
So that's why if you ask me what I would do Hannibal and I would do the Grigori, because there's never been a story like this done. And it's a story that questions the age-old question of how forgiving is God, because there's a character in the story named Azazel, who in the Bible, it tells you God will never forgive him. So we were taught one thing, but my movie shows something else. And I use the Bible and facts in the Bible to tell my story. I'm not making any of this up. I read all this, you know what I'm saying? It's all interpretation. So, I think it'd be a hell of a story to make. And
I think it would be too.
They give people a totally different perspective of what's good and what's evil.
True. I think so. And Joe from the network said that sounds amazing, which I agree.
Thank
I
you.
think this movie needs to get
It
made.
needs to get made. So God, we put that out there. God, you gave me the
You
gumption
heard
to write it.
it.
So I
Yeah.
need you to send me the money to make it, because it's a story that questions everything that we were taught
It's true.
through Christianity, everything.
Yeah.
And it walks us through history of how these things have affected us as people throughout time.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot. There's a lot in Christianity. I grew up in it, and there's a lot. One of my best friends, Lamar, and I talk about all the time. There's a lot of contradictory things and things that are out there that we were growing up on and we were taught
right.
in the church. But
And you're not supposed to
when you
question
dig
it.
yeah, when
You
you
better
dig
not question it.
deeper, when you dig deeper, you're like I've always asked like stories about David and Goliath, and there's a lot of different, even like Noah's Ark, and they're like just destroying the world. Like
I got
how did
questions.
it get built up again? Like there's a lot of.
I got a better one. Let's go with Noah's Ark, right? In the world we live in, there's some animals that don't live on this continent. You know what I'm saying? So how the hell they got over here? You know what I'm saying? How you got on the boat? You know what I'm saying? We don't have kangaroos here. So how did you get on the boat? You know what I'm saying? How did you swim across that mother? You know what I mean? So a lot of the stories, a lot of, and then my thing is I've always been very, very firm on how we as Black people came to be Christians. You know what I'm saying? We have to consider the fact that Christianity was taught to us so that we would stop running as slaves. Christianity was taught to us is to give us hope for something better when we die. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't taught to us for salvation of now. It was like, if you take what's happening to you, then when you die, God is going to look out for you. Same God that's allowing me to do this to you. And by the way, I'll be up there too. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I just don't see how they even sold this to people.
Yeah.
Because you basically telling me the same God that's going to take you to heaven is going to take me to heaven, which makes me think I'm going to still be your slave when I get there.
There's a lot of contradictions.
I gotta say this one. I don't want to get too churchy, but I gotta say this one because I find it funny. There's so many contradictions. In the Bible, there's 10 commandments, and one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill, right? Thou shalt not kill. That's very cut and dry. Don't do it, right? Keep reading, right? You go a few chapters back, some other dude wrote, and obviously these writers never got together to see what the other guy wrote, right? Some other guy writes, if 2 or more people say that you're guilty of a crime, they have the right to put you to death. Now, I can't kill, but if you and I decide to kill your producer, he's a dead man. You know what I'm saying? What the hell, man? It's like, you can't. How can I follow something when it's inconsistent? You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, the problem with the book is not the information. The problem is how the information is manipulated. You have people who took this information and said, I'm going to use this information to enslave other people. So I'm going to use the power of this information and the fear of this information. You tell me God is love, but everything you telling me is fear. If you read the actual real Bible, there's 2 of them. There's 2 Bibles. You know what I'm saying? The original Bible shows you a God of wrath. That's God. You know what I'm saying? The God that we fear, the one that's in fear, God, that's God. Then they give you this forgiving God that became forgiven after you killed his son. Now, I don't know if you got a child, but I got a child. They say they created God, man in God's image. You kill my son, I'm not kumbaya with you. I'm not cool with you. So the psychological thought of that is just, so you turn somebody into a pillar of salt for looking back at Babylon, but you gonna forgive all of mankind for killing your son?
That's a whole. We gotta have a whole other show.
It confuses me. I guess is what I'm saying. Some things don't make any logical sense, and then they tell you lean not to thine own understanding. Well, if I'm supposed to find the kingdom, I gotta lean to something. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? What am I? It's like it's set up for you to fail. You know what I'm saying? You can't lean on your own understanding. Lean on his, but he ain't supposed to lean on his own understanding. But I'm listening to him, so it's just it's like it's left to interpretation.
True. So we got a question from we got one more 1 sentence of silence, a name that I didn't throw out, but our producer Joe wants to. Phil Lamar.
Phil, amazing. One of the most giving voiceover artists I've ever met. When I first got in the voiceover business, I worked with Phil quite a few times. And I was already a fan of his from Pulp Fiction. You know, I was an actor fan of his. I didn't know he was a big animation guy. But when I found out, Phil was one of the people. A matter of fact, he and I, for those who are going to be at the con in Vegas in December, Phil and I are sharing the table together. So
nice.
we're having a Static Shock reunion. Phil and I will be sharing the table. Phil is one of the most giving voiceover artists I've ever met in my life. When I knew nothing about this business, nothing about the industry, he was always encouraging, always telling me that, you know, my voice was great and I should do this and I should do that and giving me advice. I love that dude. That is one of the realest cats in the industry right there.
Awesome. All right, my brother from Generation Movies, JW, says, serious nerdy movie question. What's your all-time favorite film?
There's so many. If I had to just go right off the top of my head, I would probably say The Departed, or Bronx Tale, or
good stuff,
or The Usual Suspects.
Oh, another Kaiser Soze.
Color Purple. Yeah, Kaiser Soze is my guy. You know, Color Purple. These are the movies that sort of shaped my way of seeing the industry, you know, as something viable. These movies were all powerful. They all had statements in them, and they had some of the most incredible talents working on one screen, like The Departed. I mean, how many A-list actors can you get on one screen? If The Departed comes on and I'm flipping channels and it's on, I don't care what part of the movie it is, I'm going to stop and watch it. So there's just some movies that just move me like that. And that was when I'm not really a big horror movie guy. I do zombies because I write them. But I'm not really a big horror movie. I never was into that cult type stuff. You know, the people coming out wells and shit like that. I'm not into that.
There's some good choices there, definitely.
Right, yeah. But the ones I like movies that make statements. I like movies that have a voice and have something to say. And like I don't really like a lot of slave fare, but I will give credit to John Legend and what he did with that show Underground. I thought that was one of the best slave themed movies or TV shows I've ever seen in my life, because they made it very modern while still keeping the old slave theme to it, but showing slaves being resilient and trying to fight for their lives and their freedom, not just being beat up and whipped and abused, because that happened too. You know what I'm saying? We had a whole bunch of people out there who said no more. You know, Harriet Tubman, a lot of people ran, a lot of people fought. You know, Nat Turner. A lot of people killed slave owners, you know what I'm saying? So it was for me, I think that these are the moments that made cinema great, because, you know, we come from real places with this stuff. Stuff really happened.
Definitely. So what's upcoming for Gary work-wise? Like, you got any new projects, any VO coming up? Share with the world.
Yes. Hey, I want you guys to tune into the new FUBU network, FUBU, For Us, By Us network. It's a streaming network, same people that did the clothing line. I have a show on there right now that's called In the Shadows. It's a high tech. It's a show that was basically written for a white cast. They casted it with an all black cast. It's a pretty hip show. It ain't your usual street stuff. We're going all over the world, you know, dealing with stuff like human trafficking, you know, international drug cartels. And I lead the organization, the secret organization that's doing all this stuff. I lead that organization. I got Foster's Law also coming on, either on Urban Flix or on FUBU Network as well. That's the one I did with Brian White. So that's 2 series that have coming out. Of course, the movie that we did, False Pretenses. I'm going to the premiere in Atlanta on the 9th of next month, and I'm going to the premiere in Philly. Yeah,
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll be for Thanksgiving. I'll be there for the opening, because that movie comes out Thanksgiving. I'm not sure which streaming network it's on. As soon as I find out, I'll post it. But that's a very, very interesting film about a young group of people. My son in the story wants to bring back an African tradition of a susu, which is how Black people used to sort of pool their money together to start businesses. And everybody takes X amount of dollars a month and puts away. And at the end of the year, you give it to one of the people to start a business. And they do this every year until each one of their friends have a business. Really cool concept. But in the story, some things go wrong. My son then ends up dead, and I end up going ape shit trying to figure out who killed him. So it's a classic whodunit. You don't see a lot of those modern day. So, you know, if you like whodunits, you know, do see False Pretenses. It comes out this Thanksgiving. And and I got one more. Daughters of Dolomite. I don't know when the hell this is dropping, but Foster keeps telling me, he just hit me from Cabo and said, the movie's ready. But I did Daughters of Dolomite. I played Dolomite. I'm the third man in the history of the character to play the character. Rudy Ray Moore, the original, Eddie Murphy, and now Gary Sturgis. And what we're doing is a little bit different. It's called Daughters of Dolomite because it's basically a story that shows while Dolomite was out sowing his oats, he fathered all of these children that he literally had no idea that he had. So he's finding out that he has all these daughters when he's in a situation that he has access to a lottery ticket from a dude that went to jail, and everybody's trying to get this ticket from him. So his daughters sort of come into the story and help him out, and this is their first time meeting him as well. So it's crazy funny. It's not 70s like the typical Dolomite stuff. Is very 2022, so it's not your daddy's Dolomite. We're doing something totally different with the character, and we're gonna do the Daughters of Dolomite franchise, and we're doing a Dolomite franchise. And the Dolomite franchise is gonna actually pay homage to Rudy Ray Moore in the sense that we're gonna do Dolomite the way he intended to do Dolomite, which was to have it something that rivaled Shaft. You know, it's going to be actual drama. It's not going to be comedy and goofy shit. We saving that. We're going to do all that for Daughters of Dolomite to pay homage to the comedy part. But ultimately, it was supposed to be a drama. Rudy just wasn't the best actor. So now they got me. We're going to do this shit more like, you know, like hardcore, real fight scenes, you know, real ass kicking, you know, guns and stuff. So it's going to be, you know, but that's when we actually do the Dolomite franchise. But I'll be playing Dolomite until I die. So just let y'all know.
You got to keep us up to date on that, man. I want to know more info on this because
for sure, brother.
Dope.
For sure,
it's dope. All right, so Gary, we always end our show with like I asked each guest to throw out some words of wisdom, advice, uplifting or not, because this is a tough business. So I like to throw it out there that there are upsides, there's downsides to everything. So there's a lot of aspiring filmmakers, actors, voiceover people that are watching this show every week. So can you just share some words with the audience before we let you go tonight?
Sure. I tell people all the time in the entertainment game, you have to think of it as a race, right? It's not a 40-yard dash. Every now and then you see some kid that pops off the bus and he's an overnight success. You know, like it was a 40-yard dash. This is a marathon, people. This is a marathon. You got to think Kenyan. You know what I'm saying? We have to do this for a while. So pace yourself. You know what I'm saying? This is not some, you know, Hollywood or bust. If I don't make it in the year, it's over. This might not be your year. You know, I hear a lot of people do that kind of stuff. They give themselves time limits. If I don't do it in this amount of time, you know, the cosmos and the universe don't always work on your timeline. So if this is something that you're serious about, then you have to commit to it. And you have to understand that it's a business of feast and famine. You know what I'm saying? It's just like getting married. There's a for better and a for worse. There's a for richer and a for poorer. That's the same way the entertainment business is. If you're looking to quit your day job to make a career out of this, I wouldn't suggest that. I would suggest that you make this a career first and then quit your day job, because it's a feast or famine business. Even myself as a working actor, there's months where I might not be doing anything. You know, I haven't done like, especially with COVID, this has been a real slow year for us acting. I think I've done maybe one film project this year, but I have other talent. So in my case, you know, I get hired to write. You know, I get hired to write. Like I done wrote 2 series in the last month. You know, I got a book I'm about to turn into a series for somebody. So I have other skill sets, so that when the acting stuff is not working, I do my workshops, I do voiceovers, I direct, I write. But that's not everybody else's skill set. Some people just act or just write or just do this. And if that one thing ain't working out for you, don't quit. You know what I'm saying? If it's meant for you, it's going to be for you. I believe in my heart of hearts that what is for you is for you. And there's nobody that can take that from you. So if something didn't work out, even you wanted it, no matter how bad you wanted it, it probably just wasn't for you. And if you take that attitude to moving forward, then rejection won't be as hard.
Great advice. Great advice. Some of the best advice I got early on was doing similar to what you did, is honing a lot of different skills. So you always had something to do. You never know. Not fall back on. But I started as an actor, but I quickly started learning screenwriting. I quickly started learning how to produce and direct and cameras and
those things keep you working, because what if nobody wants to hire you as an actor? But that movie is going to need a production guy. It's going to need sound. It's going to need this. Well, if you do those things, then maybe that can get you here. And you know how the business is. If you're on the set, there's always somebody that don't show up. There's always somebody that's screwing up. And since you standing there, instead of calling somebody else all the way out to the Poconos, we just let you do it. You know what I'm saying? It's about positioning. You know,
it is.
Be at the right place at the right time with the right equipment, ready to function.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always tell people the first 4 projects I was on as a PA like 25 years ago, I ended up in the movie with good parts because someone didn't show up,
Somebody didn't
someone
show
got
up, right?
sick,
That's
someone
how I
got
got my
sick.
first
So
job. Somebody didn't show up.
it just happens. And then again, I was a martial artist growing up. So I got into the stunt fighting. And there's a lot of people on indie films don't think about stunt coordinators or they can't afford them.
Exactly. There's
So
money in that.
they're like, hey, you do it. And I'm like, well, if you pay me a little bit more, then I'll be your stunt
I'll do
fight
that too,
coordinator or
right?
whatever.
I'll do that
So
too.
for me, it's always putting yourself, like you said, in a position on these sets to, hey, you can raise your hand. Hey, you guys don't have a stunt coordinator?
Then I'm
I
here
know
for you.
I can do the safety checks. I can do the gun. Like I can do all of that because
Right.
I've been on sets to make sure how things, the proper protocol. And again, I've been even more blessed just to have bigger opportunities because I had the knowledge beyond just being an actor or whatever. I could step up and say, hey, I know how to do that competently. And then I would get upgraded for pay and whatever. So that's great advice you gave because, and I second and third and fourth that because
Well, it's the truth. I
yeah,
literally was sitting at home. I just took a book and turned it into a pilot for a TV series.
yeah.
Then a friend of mine, that I shot with years ago called me, hey man, my nephew's got this project, he wants to turn it into a series or whatever. I know you can knock it out real fast. So I called you up and I hit the dude up, told him what I do, what I wanted for it. And 9 days later, he got what he wanted. I got what I wanted. So, it's a, this is how I eat. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a regular job. I create my lane. So there's nothing wrong with creating your own lane. Master something so that you can use that skill set to make you money. There's a man who told me this. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. When I was playing in the band back in the 7th and 8th grade, Mr. McGowan used to say, remember the 7 P's. 7 P's. Proper pre-planning prevents piss poor performance. Remember the 7 P's.
7 P's. I love it. That's perfect to end on. I just want to give a shout out to TK Henderson. Her and Michael Melvin are part of the Black Filmmakers Lounge on every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on Facebook and everywhere you can go online. And they also have a YouTube channel, Black Filmmakers Lounge. Great people. They throw out a lot of great advice for not just the Black community, like on business practices and filmmaking practices, but they just share a lot of good knowledge to our community and beyond. So just want to give a shout out. Thanks for watching. TK, JW. Thanks, Gary, for all the amazing stories and another excellent IOU. Thank you, JW. Appreciate you, brother. Gary, where can we find you on the socials?
Hey, y'all know I'm big time on my social media. You can catch me on Facebook. It's / Gary Sturgis. That's STURGIS. On Twitter and Instagram, it is Movie Star G at Movie Star G. Most of my pages have a blue check mark, so you'll know it's me.
It's awesome. Well, Gary, thank you for spending some of your Friday night with us. We appreciate you, man.
Having me.
Keep doing what you do and doing it like you do it and just keep being real. That's what I love this show to be. Real talk, like you're straight up and honesty, because again, there's not a lot of true honesty out there. There's a lot of people who want to sell you a bill of goods, but you're actually giving it
the real, properly,
man. Giving it real about your career and everything like that. And I look forward to again rapping with you in person on October 23rd.
Yeah, I'll see you. Yeah, I'll see you. Yeah, I'll see you at the premiere, man. That'd be dope.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you again. I know Joe behind the scenes appreciate you. Joe, you have anything you'd like to say to Mr. Sturgis?
Yeah, I'm glad it's just showing my avatar, so I don't have one of those goofy white dude smiles. No, this was an amazing episode. Gary, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Again, an incredible career, and can't wait to see what else you have coming. The whole religious movie that has me totally intrigued right now.
Yeah, I'm really gonna push that this upcoming year. I want to see that made. I think it's different. There's nothing like it ever been made. So I question everything. You know what I'm saying? I question everything.
We live in a world now where that's we should.
It's okay. We should. I mean, how do you know?
Yeah.
I get a lot of flack when I would post stuff about it. I would get a lot of flack about it. But I tell people if it's making you talk, then it's accomplishing its goal. I want to make you think. That's what it's a thinking movie. It makes you think because we can be told things just like people will tell you, Christopher Columbus discovered America. If you read 48 Laws of Power, you'll find out that he kind of stumbled upon it. and kind of used the queen to get some votes because he thought he could find some money for himself. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of selfishness going on here. You can't find something that already exists that people live on, man. You know what I'm saying? If that's the case, me and Brandon are going to take us a trip over to Europe tomorrow, right? Since there's a changing of the guard over there, we're just going to plant a flag in that motherfucker and just say, I discovered this shit because it's my first time coming here. You know what I'm saying? And we'll call it history. We'll call it history and we'll write it in books. You know, if for years to come, people will talk about it.
I love it, man. I love it, man. You are the man, Gary. Everybody on the Indie Escape Network, Gary Anthony Sturgis. Thank you again, my brother.
Thank you, guys.
You enjoy your weekend, man.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
What an amazing freaking guest, man. I was just wow.
Yeah, he's just I'm blessed to have met that cat because again, he's somebody I definitely want to work with. Got a lot of projects coming up with. I'm gonna share with him in the next few months or whatever. And again, he's just one of those people that we live in a world now where there's a lot of people who aren't forthright. They're not straight up with you, or they have agendas to what they're saying to you. And he's always just straight up.
Nope, never met anybody like that, Brandon. Tell me how that goes.
Yeah, on this journey we've been on, like even before these shows, like there's a lot of fakeness going on, but cats like Gary are just realer than real, and like those are the kind of people I like to surround myself with. Cats like him, Mark Weber, who I mentioned early in the show that I just finished working with on Figments of Freedom, and again, they're just people who are just straight up real.
Wait a minute, and Timmy,
my man from Subsoil, yeah, another real cat. They'll just tell you like it is, and like whether or not people like it or not. That's what I spent the beginning of my career kind of being reserved a bit, and like, should I say that, and will I rock the boat if I say this or do this? And I don't live that way. I haven't lived that way in a long time now, because again, you need to speak your truth, and you need to and people either accept it or they don't. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, if you don't like me for whatever reason, that's not going to make me lose sleep, because I'm trying to do things the right way. Like whether it's by this show and this network, or by my filmmaking career, or my acting career, or whatever it is I'm doing in life, I try to live by the code that I've built for myself. Just like Gary does, just like Mark does, just like you do. So I mean, for me, it doesn't matter to me that what naysayers say. That's just white noise. It doesn't, I mean, for me, as long as we're doing what we need to do to achieve our goals, then I mean, I'm good. So I appreciate you. I know you're still feeling down. Hopefully you're feeling better this week, Joe.
I am feeling better, and I want to thank everybody who has reached out with me in this COVID crap. I don't wish it upon anybody. Again, at first I thought it was just like a freaking man cold, and I thought I was kind of like, overreacting to it. And then when you fall asleep on a Thursday and wake up on a Saturday, there's no overreacting to that.
Scary stuff. Yeah, it's not like a lot of people have had the slight versions of it. I had the slight version of it, like I think in January, that really I didn't even feel anything for a few days, and then it was over. But some people, again, there's a lot of people who have had have horrible experiences, obviously, with this that were fatal, and thankfully that's not your trajectory, but obviously you've been dealing with a mofo with this. So, but yeah, hopefully you're coming out on the other side of it.
Joe Ridgely doesn't get sick; he holds viruses hostages. Thank you,
Joe Ridgely Norris now.
Ladies and gentlemen who are still tuning in, please go to Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a like and a follow. I think I'm actually getting my groove back, man. I needed this night.
I hear it. I needed it. I hear it in your voice, man. So yeah. So next week I have a great guest lined up. I can't say exactly who it is because
you gotta say.
I don't want to jinx it. But and he didn't get back to me today, but I'm sure he will. Like either when I get off this broadcast or by tomorrow. So I will definitely announce it tomorrow if I get the heads up. But it'll be a pretty dope guest. And actually the couple weeks after that, I'm working with actually a producer friend of mine to bring a whole amazing lineup of horror themed guests throughout the the October month. So
Sweet.
there's going to be some really, really amazing guests from horror cinema that are going to be joining us on the network throughout October. So stay tuned for that. Again, thank you everybody for watching. JW, Gabe, TK, Tim, everybody else. If I missed anybody, my apologies. Get Joe, get better, keep getting better.
Thank you.
And again, to sign off, believe in the power of yourself and the right others. Have a good weekend, everybody. Peace.